Okay, welcome everyone to Tarqaron, a
Mm-hmm.
channel where we talk about gaming, film, television, and pretty much anything worth discussing.
Yeah,
And
like
here
this
we
chance
are.
time wheel
Yeah, that's right.
selection.
Last week we spun a wheel, and it determined what we would talk about this week. Of course, we made the initial lists of discussion topics, but it picked this one, which is we're gonna go on a trip down memory lane about Pete's Game Room Forum, which of course, if you don't know, is a forum which basically was the foundation of a gaming community we were in. It was
Mm-hmm.
around the early brewings of the YouTube community back in the day, and also it's what spawned podcasts we were involved with, which eventually meandered into what we have today. So, I mean, I give a lot of credit to this forum for doing being very instrumental in my gaming hobby, especially into like retro gaming and collecting and things like that. I joined when I was 12 in 2009 and was active up until like 2017 or whenever it died.
Yeah, no, I mean, without the forum, I mean, we wouldn't have made podcasts, and we wouldn't be doing this right now. It's really thanks to the forum that this is happening right now. So
I mean, it's important to
um,
establish that there's a backstory within the backstory where it's like I was a part of a podcast called Hey Listen
hmm
with a friend named Cole who was on the
hmm
channel once. You were a part of a podcast called The Users back in the day, and then eventually the Users ended. You merged within Hey Listen, became a co-host on that, and then we rode that out for a while, and then
hmm
eventually that ended, and then From the Ashes is what formed Tarqaron here.
yeah.
But I mean, it's honestly a lot of random chance that led to this
Well,
first,
total random
because
chance.
first of all, the whole forming of the users was kind of like a random chance thing, right?
It was all based on a poll on in the forums, basically. Lachlan, LMG Gaming, as he was known, basically made a poll and was like, "Hey, I want to make a fan podcast out of based on the Ulgen Gamers," and so calling all people in the forum, give me your pitch, what you wanna, give me, and we'll have people vote on whoever all comes in and submits. Um, so yeah, there was a lot of people that submitted. I would say probably a dozen, maybe people all submitted to come in. Um, there was apparently some, if memory serves, there was some like vote
Yeah,
manipulation.
there
Someone
was.
made a bunch of fake accounts, and Pete curious because the vote seemed to all jump up all at one time. Um, I did some looking at some of the accounts that were just made, and they were all from the same IP address. He's like, I banned all of them but for the sake of privacy, I'm not going to say who it is. The guy who it was, basically, he came out and was like, "Hey, it was me, and I'm sorry, and I'm not in this anymore." He was just like, he kind of like threw himself out of the. He's like, "All right, I admit defeat," and it was like, man, that was just so strange to think that that's what happened. And I think with that, it would have kept me and Pegasus or me and K-Coop 89 out of the running. K-Coop
Yeah.
89, who is on our podcast a grand total of 2 times. That poor guy was just he was part of like the music scene in Scotland or something. He was like in a band,
Uh-huh.
and he was like always playing gigs and stuff when we were recording. So like we could never find a time that really fit really well because Lachlan, LMG, lived in Australia. I think he lived in Brisbane, if memory served, or maybe Melbourne. I don't remember. Um, and uh, yeah, I obviously live in New England. Pegasus lived out in Montana. Botza lived down in the south somewhere. I can't remember the state off the top of my head. And so that was and then a guy who lives in Scotland. So you have a huge swath of of time zones having to juggle with there, and yeah, Kevin he basically showed up twice and then never showed up again. LMG stuck around for a long time. He was basically the producer. He came on. He was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this to be a host. I'm just essentially I want to play producer." Basically, funnily it was very very similar to what Jason Heine was doing, because Jason came on to be the producer to make and record the show, make it sound nice. He wasn't really planning on being like an actual host to begin with, but then that's what he became on the All Gen Gamers podcast, which is of course where we were inspired by. So, yeah, all that crazy happenstance just threw us all together, and
Hey Listen was just Cole made a thread and just a random topic asking for like looking for someone to be a co-host or to do a podcast with. I had never spoken to him before at all. I'd known him he was known for being a poster about the Operation Killscreen podcast. So it's all extensions of different podcasts. But aside from that, we had never really had any interaction before. But I was like, yeah, I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while. So the next thing you know, I'm just on a Skype call with him. I remember walking around my backyard just talking about it and like leading up to it. And then in 2012 is when that was born. So it was like episode 35 of that is when you eventually joined, because the users had died off. Everybody was falling off of that podcast. So
yeah, so LMG was, I think he was doing stuff with school, and school got like super busy for him, so like he couldn't really do very much anymore. And then he also went traveling. He came back for an episode, I remember, and that was like one of my favorite episodes that we ever recorded. It's probably terrible to listen to now, but it was just I had so much fun because we just laughed so hard during that whole episode, where he talked about some of his trips abroad and everything, and so that was all fun. But for a while, it was basically me, Botza, and Pegasus who were just sort of running the show. Some of that was just me and Botza. I remember Pegasus couldn't make it a few times, and he was having technical difficulties with his laptop, if memory served, for a while. So there were some episodes where it was just me and him. And then after a while, we were just... life just got in the way. I had school, Botza had work. So yeah, and then after all that stuff, you basically invited me, Botza, and Pegasus, I think all three of us, to come on board, or it might have been just me and Botza. I don't really remember exactly, but us to come on board. Hey, listen, and then Botza was kind of like, yeah, I'm good, and then and so it was me and Pegasus joined the Hey Listen podcast. So and that was and
the families were merged.
They were, and it was fun for the time that we had it.
Yeah, from there we even went on to meet in person in 2015 back east.
Yeah.
So it was crazy that a forum I joined when I was 12 years old, 2009, will result in so many things.
Yeah.
So many endeavors I wouldn't have been part of otherwise. And ultimately, it had been a couple of years since Hey Listen was active, but we've kept in touch because of that. And
yeah.
That's the only reason we're here today. Is from a lot of random occurrences. Butterfly effect.
Yeah, because I definitely knew you from the forums. You always asked questions for the podcast. I started to be a little bit more active on the forums once I was on the podcast. So that just kind of one thing led into another, and yeah, the forums is just a wonderful place to be. PGRF was great. A lot of really good times. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. But it was fun. It was always a place I looked forward to perusing through. So
it's also kind of a time capsule to look back. If you go to anyone who's watching can still see it, even though it used to be like PCGamerForum.com, then it was PGRForum.com, but it's completely switched servers. So at this point, it's tapatalk.com/groups/Pete's Game Room, and you can still see a lot of it up there. But
Yeah, it's all kind of it's in a different format than it's ever been. Here's the thing: is I like the way it looks now.
yeah,
Like Tapatalk is this would have been such a boon to the forum if it had switched to this beforehand.
I
Yeah,
know, because it does have a sleeker look to it.
yeah,
And we should also mention that the Peace Gamer Forum eventually became the RNG Discord server. Well, it was
yeah.
the PGRF Discord server, but then we rebranded it Rascals and Gents. And I mean, it's
Mm.
not super active, but it has its moments, you know. And it's definitely more active than Pete's Gamer Forum was in its last couple of years. But I still definitely miss the forum format because it's completely different than Discord. Obviously,
Yeah.
it lends itself to a much more longer, extended discourse where you can have longer paragraphs and you can more easily quote other people and respond, stuff like that.
Mm.
So it lends itself to more in-depth discussions. I'm just looking at my first post back on August 5th, 2009. My first post I ever made was, "This idea sounds pretty cool. I'd do it if I had the game." That's a very exciting post. In response,
Epic post.
in
Epic
response
first
to someone's
post.
idea to make some kind of a game together section where you can
So
play
so
games
my
together.
my first post, and I posted almost exclusively in the All Gen Gamers sub forum of this at the time because I was it was nuts about All Gen Gamers. So my first post, it was my only post for a while,
Mm-hmm.
was on May 4th, 2011. I asked, "Hey guys, I was wondering, what is your all-time favorite video game soundtrack and why? Also, if you have a highlight track from the soundtrack, that'd be cool. Thanks."
Very exciting first post
An epic
coming
first
out from us.
post. Um,
I have over
it,
4,000 posts, by the way. Hmm.
yeah, I'm at 992. I just under that 1,000 post mark, and it was like, wow, it's that's too bad, you know. It's funny because I actually so this is May 4th, 2011. So this is my freshman year of college. That's I can remember tuning into the live episode and talking in the I think it was on Justin TV at that time. Could have been on Twitch. I don't remember. Um,
Probably Justin
but
TV. Yeah.
and I remember I burned a bag of popcorn,
Mm,
which is
interesting.
bad because I live in a dorm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just totally forgot about it, and then it like I just destroyed. Yeah, it was bad, but it was worth it because hey, Elgin gamers, man. So other things I did, I talking about gaming piece theater. I just asked Gamester a question. How'd you discover Happy Console Gamer? His Distant Worlds, his Distant Worlds video. That was the first thing I came across. Just looking for Distant Worlds videos on YouTube. This is Final Fantasy music. So I love video game music's my thing, man. That's like I love it. So that was like a big thing of mine. So always wanted to get their two cents on that. Yeah, and I remember their 50th live stream episode. I'm seeing here is July 23rd, 2011. This is that summer I went down and I visited my brother down in Virginia that year, and I remember I tuned in to a live. Speaking of video game music, I tuned into a live concert uh, in Germany it was called Symphonic Odysseys, and it was all music based on Mamatsu. I'm getting kind of off topic here, but yeah, no, this is total time capsule. This is just totally bringing me back to that period of time.
Well,
I was playing Kingdom Hearts Recoded on the DS on that vacation, you know. So
I mean, it's interesting because it's like it acts as an archive for a lot of stuff. This has literally got almost a decade of my gaming life on it. Like
mm,
2009 is when I started, and that's in the summer of 2009 is basically when I first started discovering such a thing as like retro gaming collectors and things like that. So when I was discovering people like Pete Dorr and Happy Console Gamer, but at the same time I was also discovering like Let's Plays like Chugga Conroy and stuff. So it was just kind of like really getting into the online gaming world for the first time. So it was weird looking back because I imagine completely different opinions on a lot of stuff now. One of my earlier posts is I don't believe I know any girl gamers in real life. They are hard to find. in the topic girl gamers.
Epic. Wow. Awesome.
My
All Gen Gamers shirts.
biggest game collection in August 2009 was GameCube with 69.
Wow, okay. I have All Gen Gamers shirts. I'd buy one in a heartbeat. Did they ever make shirts?
I don't know.
I don't know if they ever made shirts. I think they did. And I never got one because I sort of had fallen off listening to them at that point, I think, anyway.
Looks like I'm up to around 150 on GameCube now.
Dang, son. Yeah, so my first, I started to branch out a little bit out of All Gen Gamers forum, games you want to see an HD remake for. Yeah, so I started posting in a bunch of different subforums after after a while, and I mean it was just great because I saw a lot of the longtime people in this forum after that. Yeah, I mean, oh, here it is, AGG Community Podcast Host Ballot. Yeah.
A thread dedicated to the worst games of all time, and I said Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, Driven, and Tasmania were all horrible. Yeah.
Okay.
I really had a bad opinion of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for some reason.
You just hate that game, man.
Yeah.
Well, whenever the port of it comes out, which I think they've delayed further. I think it's like later in the year now, so we'll have to see. Because I think they're going to have online multiplayer with that. It was great, the forum with just getting to know people, even outside of the podcast. There's a lot of people I get to know through the forum. Of course, we talked about Midipore. He still joins in discussions on the in the Discord. Rock Band Dash, who is a visual novel guy, he's kind of the one that sort of like got me more into visual novels and stuff on the forum. Oh, well, I was literally just talking about Trevor, which I didn't even know he had an actual YouTube channel until he just posted in the Discord now. He's been making videos for like years, and he has like a video that's got 33,000 views.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never realized that, which is like funny to me. But it's just he's really big into old school computers, so. It's just really funny to me. But yeah, people like that. I mean, it wasn't just people in the forum though. It was events. Events were really kind of like that was what really to me was like this place is a community. It's not just a bunch of people nerding out about games, but like there were the Secret Santas, of course. I participated in quite a few of those. Those were great. The Gents Challenge, which I think was started. Where exactly was that started? Do you remember exactly? I know Anzi, who was co-host of the Radical Rascals podcast, was and Consummate Troll. He was one of the best trolls on the forum. I think he probably got banned a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
But he, I feel like he, at least once, maybe I felt like that was kind of his baby a little bit.
He came up with the whole idea. He started it, and it was on PC Game Room Forum very early on, like possibly 2009, but at least 2010.
Yeah. So the events were really a really great thing. One of my favorite events, actually, this is something that I wanted to bring up, was one that I remember. It was time consuming, but it was awesome. And I remember telling friends of mine about this in college. And they were like, "That's one of the coolest things I've ever heard."
Mm-hmm.
And that was the music challenge, the Gents Music Challenge.
Yeah.
Basically, what ended up happening, I mean, there were some tournaments and stuff that we did for like game music. I think that one fizzled out after a while, which is unfortunate. But I did music challenge, but the music basically just here's 10 songs, here's 10 of my favorite songs, I think it was you get matched with someone else, and you would have to go through their whole playlist and basically then like write reactions to it. And I think you would have to do that with I don't remember if you had to do that with everyone or if you got matched with different people. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but it introduced me to so much more different music.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just I loved it. It was so cool to just experience different people's taste in music through this sort of thing. It actually, I made the suggestion on my floor to do something like this. I had everyone make mix CD, or it was my suggestion. It wasn't me that did it, but it was, I think it was my senior year. Our floor all basically just made mix CDs for each other
Mm-hmm.
to just sort of, and we swapped them back and forth and just sort of shared each other's music taste to just get to know each other a little bit better that way. And yeah, I mean, I think it was just such a cool, interesting know some of the people on the forum a little bit better just through their taste in music, and it was a little bit more personal, I think, than some of the other interactions, and I really liked that.
Yeah, that was Mini Poor's topic. He started that challenge.
Mm.
Yeah, I still have
Yeah.
a bunch of songs from that I still enjoy. For sure. That was before I even got more heavily into music. In like 2015, I started getting into music more. So it was definitely interesting. And yeah,
Mm.
I used to do the community poll tourneys. I did a few of them. A couple of them were like, the first one was like rent some like console games of like that generation. And there was a handheld tournament. And there was the music one I started, but I just wasn't getting enough votes really. It was like really few
Mm.
people were voting at that point. It was like when the forum was on its way out, kind of. So it was dipping down in activity. But it's interesting because I joined the forum as this 12-year-old, just getting into collecting and stuff. But a
Mm.
few years later, I became a moderator, and a few years later, I became an admin. When all hope was lost, they had no choice but to. They were getting desperate. Berlin was like, because he was not taking the time to manage it at that point. Pete Dorr was well gone at
Mm.
that point, so he was like, "Here, just take the keys, do something with it." And it's like
Mm.
I tried, but there was no saving it past a certain point. The Discord was kind of a compromise to try to get more people active again.
Yeah, and it to a point, I think it did, it did briefly. I think there were ebbs and flows in activity. There were definite times when the forum felt like it was sort of in a lull. And it was, interestingly enough, it was actually, to me, it felt like when our podcasts started to like come into their own. I mean, this has nothing to do with the activity on the rest of the forum at all,
Mm-hmm.
but like to me, it did sort of somehow feel like when I was more active in a podcast, the forum was a little bit more active. And maybe it was just because I was more active on the forum in an instance like that. But yeah,
I mean, when our podcasts were first coming on, that was a good time because there was so many different podcasts and YouTube channels going on. It was
mm,
definitely one of the most active times. Um,
hmm
but then it like quickly spiraled out of control, like where all these podcasts really rapidly started dying off, and then activity was dropping drastically. I
hmm,
don't know. There's just some sort of the culture behind forums has changed to things like Discord and a more chat based format, and also things like Reddit, which are less lengthy discussion based, but
yeah,
more like share this thing, and then you give upvotes and things like that. So it's just like a forum format is kind of dying off. But I'm trying to find other ones, like an Animal Crossing forum I know I found recently. I kind of want to get back into that. Because a forum was such a constant in my life for this, like, pretty much a decade. So it was
yeah,
weird to not have it.
yeah. And no, it definitely does. Like it feels like it sort of as a relic of its time. Like it's hard to. It's never gonna be ever. Forums just don't do it anymore for people. I mean, it does take a sense of commitment, I think. Um, that it's hard to really, you can't like force that activity. It came about in a period of time when YouTube was a very different thing than it is now. YouTube was a lot more, it felt a lot more like Wild West. It wasn't all driven on ad revenue. And this isn't saying anything against the people that make money off YouTube. By all means, do what you need to. But it was a different mentality. It was a different sort of, and it changed as YouTube grew, which I guess is what all things will end up doing. I think the forum is just sort of, like we've said, it's a time capsule. It's a nice way to sort of look back and remember a time in YouTube past, a time in internet past, even, and then just even a time in, like I was in college through a lot of this. I then graduated. Some of my last activity on this was 5 years ago, but that's a really, I have really positive feelings about that part of my life, just in terms of how I was growing socially. And I think the forum is a perfect slice of that period of time. And yeah, and I think just based on how everything else has grown, how the world has changed, how YouTube's changed, how the internet's changed, that's kind of why, unfortunately, this is just, it'll be forever in the past, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I mean, I was involved in forum and other communities even before this, when I was even younger.
Yeah, me too.
And also
actually.
around this time, I was involved with like kind of both communities at the same time early on.
Yeah.
But that old community kind of died off. So I mean, it was weird. For some reason, I always kind of felt myself really wanting to belong in these communities online, and it's always, this forum was really like a magical time early on because there was a lot of like-minded people, and obviously I was just being exposed to all this collecting and people even being interested in retro gaming now. Like, you start to even, when you're just going to school, like middle school or whatever at the time, it's like you don't easily run into people that are still playing retro games, so you don't even know that's a thing until you go online and to find something like this.
Yeah.
Where, people form this sort of friendship even when people weren't as, close or meeting like we were. Even when we were just usernames in the forum, we still have this kinship to it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I don't know, it's just whenever, almost always when I'm involved in a communal thing like this, I find myself dedicating myself so hard to it. So it's like, when the community was dying, I was really trying to keep it alive. But even with this format dying, it's still the community that started in 2009. The remnants of it are still alive in the Discord server, so it's almost like I've never really left this community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that we can still stay in touch with all of these people years later. I do wish, and I've actually talked with Mitty about where are some of the people that were gone back then. It's really nice to see Metcar. He just came back a couple of months ago. It's great seeing him again. So one of the things also about this forum is that there was a Skype group that you weren't really super into. It was very memey and trolly, and yeah, but it was the Virtua Guild. And in 2015, I was out of work for like 6 months and 5 months, 5 or 6 months. It was a while. I remember it was during that, and then in 2014 as well. There were just long nights where I just hop on, hang out, talk with them for hours and hours and hours at a time. And I did that a little bit in college too, here and there, when I could. But yeah, a lot of really great great memories. We had some game nights with them, with the guys in there, and yeah, it's that was a good way also to sort of, instead of just having someone on the a name on the forum, it was somebody you were talking to. So that was always fun, and that's how I get to know Mitty and Trevor and Belgian and some of the other guys a little bit more, and yeah, always looking back on those Virtua Guild times pretty fondly for me. So and that again just sort of came about from a bunch of forum folks. I want to so this is one of my favorite things that I ever did on the forum, and this is something that I go back to. I actually need to save this separately, so in case if this forum ever dies, I'll never have access to this again. It's my review of SAO Sword Art Online, and I love this post because it's like, this is where my love-hate relationship of the show. I basically just dumped my thoughts out on a page, where I'm like, yeah, this show is like, I really like the hook, but this is the execution's bungled. 2 years happen in 14 episodes, which is nuts because the pacing's all over the place. I kind of like the show still. I'm just sort of summarizing. Harem Girl of the Week didn't really do it for me. Yui is the most frustrating, and I hate her so much in anime. I'm adorable. Squee at my moe adorableness. Come on, I'm really cute. It's not characterization. Yeah, man, I Sword Art Online is trash, and I hate it, but I love it. And this is like, I like to go back and read this to just kind of like bring myself back into the headspace so that I was in here, where I was just like, I was so baffled as to like, what do I make of the show? Because like I couldn't understand why it was as popular as it was. And like because I remember when it first came out, the first trailer for it, I was super hyped for it, and then I heard like kind of not so good things about it, and I was like, that's kind of interesting, but I don't know, I'll give it a shot. And then when I still couldn't understand, why is this still so popular? And this basically, I love this forum post, and yeah, I stuff like this is why memories like this are like why the forum will always be nostalgic for me. I made an entire thread that I was going to show my collection off, my game collection.
Yeah.
And then I never done it. And still to this day, I've never done it.
That's
and
true.
With me moving, parts of my collection are definitely going to be staying here at my house. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen, really. So here's the thing. I am going to post collection stuff someday. So it's basically going to be in two halves now. The stuff that stays here and the stuff that'll be over in the place I'm going to be living. So someday it'll happen. Someday.
So
That's what I've been saying for 5 years.
No room tour.
No epic room tour. Because it was stupid. Everyone was like, "You made a post for this. It's getting me unnecessarily hyped. Thanks." And it was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry."
Are we gonna get a house tour to?
No.
On Tarqaron.
Well, I don't know. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. A house tour? I mean, maybe. I don't know. It depends on if the other guys are like down a clown with that, I guess. So, because I'm moving in with two other guys, but
I don't know what the living situation is like, but you have your own little area, you know.
I will. I'll have my own room.
So
it's not much bigger than this, though. So
I don't know, because my room is an absolute disaster right now. And especially since half of it's taken up by this table that has my laptop and all this recording stuff on it. And so I'm not even able to clean it very well right now. But I just have stacks of Blu-ray and games closed.
Wall control. That's what I'm going to be using in the room. Once I get permission from the homeowner to do so, I'm going to be utilizing wall control.
What is that?
Which I heard about. which I heard about on a YouTube channel called Game Dave, who I heard about through Happy Console Gamer, bringing it back to the forums. But yeah, Game Dave did a video where he's talking about wall control. Basically, it's just like industrial pegboards that you can put shelving on, and that's what I'm going to do in that room. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm all out of shelving space in here. Like, all my shelves are full.
Yeah, I see that.
It's like nonsense.
Yeah. Most of the shelves I have here are full. Or it's like, it's really frustrating because like I collect a lot of CDs, and the problem is that I need like a specific kind of cabinetry to deal with CDs, because I don't just want the things that you stick each individual CD in, because that doesn't really help with my collector's editions of things, or like my Blackpink or my CDs, which all come in the weird shaped boxes. And so Blackpink and Red Velvet CDs that I have. So that doesn't really fit in with anything else. And then I have other CDs that sort of fit that kind of mold. I needed like a thing just for CDs for a while, but then I have this down here, which is just for anime. But this shelf needs to be way bigger. So yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. But yeah,
it's rough.
And I do attest a lot of my interests in these collections to interest thanks to the forum. So thanks, PGRF. You're responsible for my addictions.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have like tons and tons of posts and topics that it's like there's so much history there.
Yeah.
So we barely scratched the surface, but hopefully it'll be up there as long as possible. I don't want to lose all that, but
yeah, definitely. We should try to upload it onto like post onto archive or hold the Wayback Machine. Not to archive the whole forum that way.
There is like you can see some of the early PC Game Room forum days in Wayback Machine, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time.
Yeah. Nice nostalgia-filled episode.